And let me turn on my camera so you can put a face to a name. And I'm wearing a different Sumo Logic swag shirt. But anyway, just wanted to welcome you all to class. Again, my name is John Meredith. I am your instructor. I apologize. I am wrestling with a cold, but we'll get through this. And wanted to welcome you all to class. The only request I have is if you've got a question as we go through the material, please ask your question. Anything we can do to help you, that is our goal. So, and Tim, welcome to class. Good to have you back.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, like I said, let's go ahead and get started here. A lot of material to talk about. And so I'm going to turn off my video camera for a second and save a little bandwidth, and let's go ahead and get going. So the goal of this class is we are going to talk about the components that make up our observability solution. For those of you who've played with Sumo Logic before, you've dealt with log searches and metric searches and stuff like that. We're going to open up a whole new track of tools for you to use. And in that, we're going to look at basically what we've built here as an observability solution. And so we're going to talk about that observability solution. We'll talk about the three pillars of the observability solution, namely metrics, tracing, and logs. And you'll see that again in the test question. So metrics, tracing, and logs. And then we're going to use various tools like the root cause explorer and tracing and spans and all kinds of nifty little tools that we've added to the tool set over the last year. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. Again, here's our agenda. Here's how it breaks out. As you know, it's going to be a lot of hands-on labs. We're going to be, like doing a lot of little lab exercises. By the way, these lab exercises are going to come in the form of a document, not going out to our documentation website. So I'll actually provide you that document here in just a little bit. So bear with me. Again, if you take the exam and you pass it today, right after the exam, feel free to send an email, and please send it to training-promotions@sumologic.com. I noticed a couple of them after yesterday's class came to training@sumologic.com, and that will still work, but training-promotions is the better email address. So if you take it, pass it, you send us a copy of your certificate and send it to training-promotions@sumologic.com. We will send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. So you guys can have a free lunch on us. And we'll be doing that promotion, by the way, till the end of the year. So just so you guys are aware. So let's talk about what is observability. Some people think that observability, and actually I'll skip this slide for a second, I'll come back. Some people think observability is, hey, there's a problem, notify me. That's not what we mean by observability. So we've got our Sumo Logic coffee app, right? A fictitious company, serves a great cup of coffee. Probably you remember a green logoed company that you probably have frequented from time to time, but they're copyrighted. So we came up with our own coffee company, fictitious coffee company. Very similar though. And again, people think about observability being notification and alerting, okay? But in our case, we go much more than that. We want to be able to understand what's happened here. We want to be able to do root cause analysis, and we can do root cause analysis using a root cause explorer, as well as we can also do transactional tracing. So as various transactions occur throughout our process of making coffee or whatever business that we're in, we can see where things break down. Okay. So that to us is observability. And then of course you can take action, fix this and all that. Now let me just go back a slide here if you guys don't mind. Again, you've seen the slide before. We talked about it yesterday. But again, Sumo Logic is a continuous intelligence platform where we can look at our various aspects of our business, operationally, security-wise, business intelligence, basically see across our entire organization. Obviously, with observability, what we're trying to do here is look across our environments and be able to see transparently through one sheet of glass, basically what is happening, okay? So the three pillars of observability, as I mentioned before, are logs, right? Our logs that you can use that you typically tell us why something went wrong. Our metrics, which tell us what is going on. And then we're also going to add a third pillar here called tracing. And of course, you guys were in the metrics class yesterday, I believe. So hopefully you're all up on the metrics. So tracing allows us to see transactional points along the way when a transaction is occurring to see where it's failing and that sort of thing. So these are the three pillars of observability. And yes, you will see a question or two on this as you continue in today's path. Now, what we're looking for here, and I assume what you're looking for here, the holy grail of profitability and success is that customer experience. So we want to have an exceptional customer experience. You want to have an exceptional customer experience. And so research has found out that customer experience is based really on four things. First of all, it's underpinning of reliability. So I've got to be very reliable. My environment's got to be reliable, redundant, helpful, that sort of thing. My environment has to have a high degree of availability, a high degree of performance, right? If things take too long to respond, that's not going to work for me. And of course, it's got to be secure. Now, there's a couple of interesting nuggets of knowledge here that have been added. So 100 milliseconds of downtime as far as your availability reduces your e-commerce sales by 1%. So just an insignificant amount of downtime has an impact. Additionally, as far as performance goes, a 0.5 or half second latency drops your traffic by 20%. So people aren't going to play with you if it takes too long. You know, if I go to a website and it takes too long for that website to render, I'm not gonna play. So, and then of course, denial of service attacks are anticipated to double to 14.5 million in, of course, 2022, which is of course right around the corner. So again, our goal here is to help you see how your customer experience is and see how your availability, your performance, your security, and your reliability are. That's the goals of our observability solution. Now, people oftentimes get the terms monitoring and observability a little bit confused. Monitoring is just collecting data in a dashboard or some alert telling me, hey, I got a problem, right? Tells you, hey, you got a problem. To us, observability is far more than that. Observability lets us see through the system so we understand what happened. We can do root cause analysis. We can see exactly where things went wrong. And obviously, observability will typically end in looking at our logs because our logs typically tell us why something went wrong, okay? Again, as we're going through this, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Now, I like this slide. It's the proverbial tip of the iceberg, right? So when you're looking at a problem with your environment or whatever, right, there's the what's happening here, right? And you can monitor that. You can see that we've got a problem, get an alert, that sort of thing. But as far as being able to diagnose it, that's the part that's under the waterline that you really can't see, that you need to investigate. So to be able to double diagnose this, you need another 30% of your data as opposed to the initial 20% of your data approximately. And then ultimately troubleshoot it. Again, we'll talk about the tools that we can use here to troubleshoot it, to find out the why and the how. That's going to take approximately 50% more of your data. And our observability solution encompasses all three of these. We want to be able to not just notify you that there's a problem, we want to help you find the problem. We want to help you resolve the problem, get things going quicker. So as far as observability goes, the incident remediation process that we'll typically use is, of course, you will monitor, right? You'll create some alerting and dashboarding capabilities. And if there's a problem, you'll be notified. Then from there, you'll be able to diagnose. And we'll talk about things like the Entity Explorer, the Trace Analytics. Of course, you've already been familiar with the Metric Explorer, so we can see various metrics. And then finally, we're going to troubleshoot. And for troubleshooting, we're going to use the Root Cause Explorer. We're going to look at logs, things along those lines. And you'll find that all this stuff is interconnected and hooked up. So some real nice capabilities here that I think you're going to like. Again, in understanding the observability solution, especially if you're on the cloud, right? If you're on the cloud, you've got a bunch of different environments. You got prod, you got dev, you got QA. You've got them in various regions, right? US East 1, US West 1, whatever. And so within these, you've got a series of microsystems, right? Microsystems are then talking to your data store down here, your data layer, right? Whether they're relational or non-relational, doesn't make much difference. Your microservices, again, could be running all kinds of different platforms, Python, Java, whatever. And then you're going to have some sort of a gateway which then talks to your clients. And so in order to understand this, we need to be able to understand and look at which microservices are happening and what transactions are failing and where they're failing in the process. And of course, if there's issues with your databases, what's going on with the databases. Now, the good news is almost all these applications generate logs. And so we're going to take the information from those logs and we're going to make it very easy for you to see what's happening with regards to across your platform, across your environments, whether they're AWS, Azure, or whatever. And we'll be able to then go through this incident remediation process. Now, as I mentioned before earlier, I showed you the iceberg, right? We got the ability to do monitoring, which takes about 20% of our data. For that, we are going to use logs, metrics, and traces. Again, this is a great test question, so be advised. Logs, metrics, and traces for my monitoring stage. When we do our diagnostic stage, we're going to use logs and traces predominantly. We're going to look at transactions and various events. And then we go down to troubleshoot. Again, we're going to look at our logs specifically for patterns, looking at our raw log information, that sort of thing. So what's going to happen as far as a workflow process goes, we'll get some sort of alert, which may take us to a dashboard. Then in that dashboard, we're going to be able to look in here and see the various deployments and transactions and see across this. And then we're able to go in here and look at our root cause explorer, see the relationship between things. And ultimately, it's going to point us to our logs, which is going to tell us why things broke down. That's basically the process that we're going to go through. Again, on this slide, though, you want to be cognizant at this level monitoring. These are the three tools that you're going to use for diagnostics, these two, troubleshooting, this one. And again, we'll show you where the slides and stuff are as we go through this. And if I can get my slide to advance, we'll be all set. Here we go. Now, regardless of your role in your company, if you're part of DevOps or site reliability engineering, or if you're a software engineer, or if you're in DevSecOps, this tool has something for you. So when you think in terms of monitoring, diagnosing, and troubleshooting, you can see across this slide all the different capabilities and help that this tool is going to provide you. So you can understand, again, from a DevSecOps, you can see, correlate, detect your threats, identify attack vectors, understand the impact, blast radius, and remediation actions, stuff you need to do. So again, kind of a helpful visualization to see the big picture. All right. Got a little poll activity. We're going to ask you two questions here. One question is a review of what we talked about. The other question is going to lead you to our next topic. So, poll activity number one. Which of the following observability tools make the pillars for the observability solution? Feel free to type it in the chat box or unmute your mic and just blurt it out. Let me also enable everybody's mic.
The first three.
Sorry?
The first three.
First three. All right.
First
good.
three. All right.
Logs,
good.
metrics, and tracing. Absolutely correct. Good. Good job. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Now the second, okay. So again, logs, metrics, and tracing are the three pillars that make up our observability solution. Great. Now, this one we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to talk about it now. We're going to lead into it. So in monitoring the requests per seconds of an HTTP service, you notice an abrupt spike in traffic, and you want to know what's happening to your system. Okay. When you're looking at things here and you're seeing the abrupt spike in traffic, and you're seeing that quantitative value, which of the following observation techniques or which of the following things is going to help you understand the cause of the spike? Now, I realize that when I say understand the cause of the spike, you're going to naturally gravitate to logs. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand where that spike is occurring. So where would I typically see that spike in our tool set? Would I see it through metrics, logs, or traces? And again, yesterday's class should have helped you out here quite a bit. All right. So again, the answer is
Metrics.
It's not okay.
It's not.
Well, folks are going with traces. We haven't talked about traces yet. So I'll give you a hint. It's metrics. Again, we're looking at abrupt spike in traffic. We'll see that through our metrics. So when we see like 500 errors or whatever, we'll see that in the form of our metrics. So what we're looking here for is metrics. And quite frankly, every time we've asked this question, a lot of people have gotten it wrong. We're trying to figure out a way of steering it to get the right answer, what we're looking for, but that's another story. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about metrics. We're going to talk about metrics and the root cause explorer. So what we're going to do here is show you some new tools and play around here. So let me do this. let me, I'll get into the root cause explorer and all the slide stuff later, but let me just jump down, get you guys logged in. And let's talk about the root cause explorer and stuff as we go. So let me do a couple things. Number one, in the chat box, I am going to upload a PDF document. That PDF document, which it's uploading right now, you should be able to download it from the chat. Hang on a second, where'd it go? There it is. Here it is right here. So this is our lab guide. This is how we're going to do these labs. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to log into Sumo Logic, into the training environment. So if you would, fire up Google Chrome or Firefox and go to service.sumologic.com. And again, I want you to log in as training plus analyst with a 3-digit number. So I want you to grab a 3-digit number, put it in the chat box, whatever number you want. Training plus analyst with a 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And then the password, which just got changed the other day, is holiday 21 ! So you can use the same 3-digit number you used yesterday if you'd like. And let's go ahead and log in. Okay. And when you get logged in, let me know. Just raise your hand if you would. That way I know you're in and all life is good. And I see a couple of you don't have the ability to talk or ask questions. Let me fix that. Okay, so I've got a couple folks logged in. Okay, if you're having problems logging in, please let me know. But again, you're going to go to service.sumologic.com. And you're going to go ahead and log in as training plus analyst with the 3-digit number. And there's the password. So let's go ahead and log in and let's go ahead and poke around. Additionally, also in the chat box should be that PDF document. If you would download that, that would be wonderful.
Where's the PDF document?
I'm sorry?
Where's the PDF?
Is in the chat box. I put a PDF in there. Hold on a second. Let me just check. Oh, sorry, guys. My bad. I didn't put it up to everyone. I put it out to host and panelists. My mistake. Sorry. We try it again, this time with feeling. Okay. I'm uploading it now. There we go. So it should be there now. Do y'all see it?
Now visible.
Okay. You should all be able to download it. Sorry about that. The Benadryl is definitely having an effect. All right. So again, what I want you to do is I want you to do lab 0 where you log in. And when you log in and you get logged in, I'd like you to raise your hand that you're all logged in and you're in the Sumo Logic training environment. So if you would just raise your hand, that way I know that you're all in. Excellent. I've got 4 out of 8 are logged in. Again, if you're having a problem logging in, please let me know. And I assume that some of you are probably distracted by the day job, and I certainly understand that. So I'm not expecting 100% participation here, but I'd like to see if I can get more than 50%. So 4 of you got your hands raised, 4 of you don't. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds here, make sure we get a chance to log in. 5 of you are in. Thank you very much. Okay. And again, hopefully nobody's having any problems. All right, I'm going to go and lower all hands, and I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. So we are in our Sumo Logic environment, and in our Sumo Logic environment, what we're really going to focus on in this class is if I click New, you'll notice I've got these traces and these spans and this service map and this explorer and root cause. All of these things are new. If you've been with us for a while, we've always had log certs, we've always had metrics, we've always had live tail. This dashboard new thing has been out for well over a year now. But these other things are all new and they're part of our observability solution. So that's what we're going to focus on in this class. Now, in this class, what we want to do is we want to go through a scenario. So As we mentioned before, we talked about the travel logic company. The travel logic company is where you can book airfare and hotel and cars, right? We talked about that yesterday. Well, you're a DevOps specialist supporting the travel logic application on AWS. And your focus is on ELB, the application load balancer, the elastic load balancer, host and EC2, and DynamoDB. And you're finding out that end users experience an outage in the application with a 5xx error in US East 1 in the last 24 hours. So being the DevOps specialist, your challenge is to identify and figure out what the heck is going on here. That is what we're going to do first. Okay. So let's set that up. And when we set that up, I'm going to get you and talk you through the root cause explorer and all that fun stuff. So just kind of bear with me a moment. So we're going to start with the Explorer tab. So if you go up here to Sumo and you click on New, click on Explore. And with Explore, I can look at my Kubernetes environments. I can look at something called real user monitoring, which shows me the performance of my web-based application to see how long things are taking. But in our case, we're going to focus on AWS observability. So here in AWS observability, we're going to see our prod environments, our dev environments, all our different environments, all of our different AWS observability environments. By the way, if you're coming to tomorrow's class, tomorrow will show you how to install all this fun stuff. And it's a lot easier than you think. So we'll add some environments here for tomorrow's class. I'll be able to see that. Okay. How did I get to Explore? Thank you very much for asking. I went to New and I went to Explore. So New and Explore. That brings up my Explore tab. And then in my Explore tab, I click here and I select AWS observability. Now I want to focus on my prod environment. So I'm going to expand my prod environment. I'm going to focus on my regions. US East 1 is where my problems are. So I'm going to look at this particular dashboard. And in this particular dashboard, as the data shows up, I can see where my users are logging in from. I can see what kind of resource activity they're doing, whether they're updating, deleting, that sort of thing. Okay. From Sumo Logic Home, don't see New. And then you are logged in as in the training environment, right?
Yes, I'm in the training environment.
Okay. And you don't see this New button here?
No, I just see the manage data administration and rest of the stuff. I don't see the.
So you're seeing this stuff down here.
Yeah.
Okay. But you should see up here, should see a new blue button.
No, I don't see New. Oh, yeah, I see New now. Yeah.
Okay.
And I should click on Explorer. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking. And again, if anybody has a problem, one thing I've learned through the years, if somebody has an issue, somebody else probably has the same issue. So I definitely want you to bring it to my attention so we can walk through it and get you all taken care of. All right. Don't want to lose anybody. You guys are giving up time to be here. I want to make sure it's worth your while. All right. So down here, of course, I've got a section about my application load balancer, my ALB, right? And so I can see here that I'm generating some 5xx errors in my prod environment. I'm going to investigate that a little bit further. But I can also see some other information here about my EC2, my Lambda, my DynamoDB, all kinds of nice and nifty information here. Now, this is just one of many dashboards. So if I go over here to the right and I click on my dashboards here, my pull down, I'll see there's an AWS region events of interest. And what this is going to do is it's going to pop up with a like root cause explorer. This is not the root cause explorer. This is a dashboard from the root cause explorer. And I'll explain in a minute why. Now, what the root cause explorer does is it shows me these events of interest, throughputs, errors, bottlenecks, latencies, availability, all of this good stuff. And so I can go through here and I can put my cursor on this and I see I've got an EC2 instance bottleneck. And here I can see I've got a DynamoDB issue. And up here, I can see I've got an application load balance issue. Now, let me help you out. Across my x-axis is a timeline. So these are the more recent things over here to the right. These are the older things here on the left. On my y-axis is drift. And drift is nothing more than the percentage of difference than from normal. So if it's got a high drift factor, the higher the drift factor, the farther off from normal it is. And so what I'm looking at here is this actually occurred, this is the latest event right here. My application load balancer generated in there. We, you and I, are analysts responsible for this application load balancer. And if you look at the metric there says HTTP code ELB 5XX count. So we're seeing an excessive amount of HTTP 5XX errors. Now, immediately preceding that was an issue with an EC2 instance of a bottleneck. And here I see in my metric, I'm looking at my CPU load average for 1 minute, and it's gone high. And then I can go over here to the preceding dot, and I see an issue with my DynamoDB table. And if I look at my metric, it's talking about read throttle events. So something's wrong with my read throttle events, which has caused a bottleneck, which is causing all of this other stuff. So I can see across my various microservices, the relationship between those microservices. Now, it might be better and easier for me to actually open this up in the real root cause explorer. Now, the way I do that is, you notice in this graph, this visualization, there are these 3 dots here. And if I click on those 3 dots, I can open this up in the root cause explorer. And that's what I want to do. I want to open this up in the root cause explorer and give it a second here to load. This is going to go ahead and load. Now, I mentioned earlier that that dashboard was not the real root cause explorer, and it isn't. Because the real root cause explorer, if I open up my filter section here, allows me to filter by AWS and host, by Kubernetes, by application services. And I can specify in my AWS and host, whether it's prod, dev, QA, what region I'm in. I can filter by all kinds of neat stuff. I can also filter and look for positive values, negative values. I can do a filter based on a percentage of drift, based on duration, and duration is my start time and my end time here, my width here, that's my duration. I can do it based on seasonality and stability and all kinds of interesting stuff, okay? How did I get to the current page from this page? Yep, good question. So what I did was, hopefully you're in this current page. You're back here in the Explorer, right? What you want to do is in the chart here, you want to click on this More Action button, 3 vertical dots, say Open in Root Cause Explorer. That will then create this. Now, again, in order to understand the information contained in here and understand what some of these values are, you may want to check out our documentation. So if I go to help.sumologic.com from a new tab, this is our product documentation. I mentioned this yesterday. Now in our product documentation, you'll see that we've got a section here on our observability solution. And if I go in here to my observability solution chapter, I see that I have a section here for the root cause explorer. Now in this root cause explorer, I can see information about this root cause explorer. I can see about the 6 troubleshooting concepts that we're going to talk about that this supports. I can also see all of these lovely, events of interest and various other things, these EOIs. In fact, this one page right here probably has 4 or 5 certification questions on it. So I'm going to add this to the chat box. Okay. Tom, I understand your show's grayed out. Okay, so hang on a second. Let's see what's going on here. So Tom, are you in the training environment? Or are you logged into your own company's environment? Okay, it's better. Okay, good. All right. So is everybody with me here? Okay, it took forever to launch the show. Okay, fair enough. That's interesting. So as I mentioned here, I can sit there and throw filters. By the way, speaking of these filters, if I want to disengage the filters without removing the filters, I can just throw the switch off. And now I will see everything as though no filter has been applied. It'll take a minute for it to run the query, but I can sit there and do that. If I want to reset my filters, I can click these trash cans over here. So lots of different ways of seeing things. Now, additionally, here's my three-dimensional view of relationship between my entities. And then they flattened it out to a two-dimensional view. So I can see when I have entities that overlap and see what's going on. Now, in our case, I have this event, which is my latest event, which was preceded by this event, which was preceded by this event. Ergo, I'm going to make the assumption that this point right here is my cause of my problem. This affected this, which affected that. But when I click on these, you'll notice I have a side panel that shows up. And here I can see my metric, my read throttle events for today right now has spiked up. A day ago, here, that one's flat. There's no spike. It's in the green. And then I've got a light blue one from 7 days ago that's also doesn't show any spikes. So here I can get information about what my metric looks like and how it's performing. Again, I can see my read throttle events. I can see its values. I can see its drift factor, all that good stuff. Here under entities, I can see where things are. So I could go into my DynamoDB if I wanted to. I can go into US East 1 or prod. You may recall from my Explorer that I was in prod, US East 1, and then DynamoDB is down here somewhere. Okay. Okay. Yours is different than mine. Missing top slider buttons, only has a few filters. Did you click on this chevron? So did you click on this chevron, Tom, to open it up and see all those things? The chevron right there. We should also basically see the same basic thing right now. We're all in the same environment. So, okay, there you go. Click on that chevron. Hopefully that'll help you out. So, but yeah, it'll show you what filters you have in place. But then when you open up the chevron, you can see all the filters that you can select. Okay. Now back to my DynamoDB, if I click on that, and if I go in here to my entities tab, I can click open in and I can open this up in my entity dashboard. And that's exactly what we're going to do. By the way, just to help you out here a little bit, let me go back to my documentation. So here we are in lab 1, we're finding this root cause explorer. Here we are in our Explorer tab. That's what we first did. We opened up our Explorer tab. And then we went in here to saw our overall dashboard. We went into events of interest. We saw this, we opened this up in root cause explorer. We're able to look around here and play around and look at our different, data points, find that information out. And now what we're about to do is we're about to open this up in our entity dashboard. So I'm on page 10, number 10 here of our directions. One other thing I should point out to you, in this root cause explorer, if I want to, I can draw a box around certain things and it will magnify that information for me, make it easier for me to see. I can also, if I want to, make it look like a Gantt chart. If that makes you feel any happier, you can do that. But what I want to do here, like I said, is I want to make sure that we selected the DynamoDB. And in the DynamoDB, we want to say, click on the entities tab, say open in, and we want to open it up in our entities dashboard. So now this is going to take us back to our Explorer, take us back to our prod, US East 1, and it's going to show us all of our connectors. Okay, it's going to show us all of our connectors. Now here in our connector, we see that we got this red indicator here, which indicates we've got problems. Okay, so we found the right connector. And what I want to do is on the dashboards over here, I want to again select it and I want to change this to events, because that information that's showing me in that dashboard is good, but it's not really what I need to know to troubleshoot this problem. So I want to focus on events of interest, events, that sort of thing. So here I can see that I've generated an error. And I've got one error, and I notice when I delete table or update table, I can see that I'm doing those various functions. I can see who my users are, my top 5 errors or top 5 events. I can see my error here, right? And then I can see my table events. And more importantly, with my table events, I can see who the user is that's playing with these table events. So I'm in my DynamoDB in my events, looking at this information. And again, I'm back to my documentation here. Here's my information, my errors and all that good stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to go find this all events information down here, this table, and we are going to open it up in our log search. So let me get back to, sorry, hold on a second. Let me get back to this, back to that. So down here in my all table events, there's these 3 vertical dots. I can open this up in my log search, and that's what I want to do. Now, why this particular panel? Why not this particular panel? Or why not one of these other panels? Because I want to find someplace where I've got usernames. Okay, these don't have any usernames. These don't have any usernames. So I am going to use this one that has usernames. And I'm going to open it up in my log search. So here in my log search, let's go ahead and take that help and turn that off for right now. Here I see my aggregate results. And here's my query. This is my log query. And what I want to do is I want to go to my messages. Now in this messages, I have only 5 messages to go through. But I want to filter it down even further. So when I scroll down here and look at my field browser, in my field browser, these are fields that we're using, like my event name, right? Update table, delete table, stuff like that. Well, the only way a read throttle event can occur, for those of you who are DBAs, you understand this. The only way a read throttle event can occur is somebody has to update my table. So if I go in here to event name, and I want to only see messages associated with update table, I don't care about deleting table. Deleting table is not going to cause this problem. So if I click update table, you'll notice it adds a filter to my query. And now I'm seeing those 3 messages where somebody updated my table. And now I can see that Ankit or Duke or Ankit, one of them changed the value of my table, therefore creating my read throttle event problem. Now I can look through that various message here and see who changed what values. And then I can talk to Ankit and Duke and say, hey guys, what happened here? What did you guys do? Why did you do it? Because you created a problem. All of a sudden now I'm getting errors. So a database administrator can actually make changes to a table that might have impacts and effects. And that's basically what happened. So that's an example of using the root cause explorer and metrics to see what's going on. Back here in our root cause explorer, right? When we clicked on our DynamoDB, here in our summary, we're seeing these metric values. And so those metric values and the root cause explorer helped us to get to where we needed to get. And again, all of our dashboards and stuff are interconnected so that we can go through here and basically use this. And ultimately, we're going to go through our logs, and our logs will always tell us why things are happening. So any questions about this exercise? Any questions at all? All right, then. One nice thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting the entities, the summary and entities tabs on the right to display. I'm sure I missed something.
Okay, do me a favor. Click on the.
Is there something else I can help with?
Sorry, guys. Apparently, somebody.
No need to apologize.
Okay. All right. So the problem here, I think, is that you didn't get the entities and stuff to appear. In your Explorer, in your root cause explorer, you've got to click on this DynamoDB. So find the DynamoDB and the side panel will come up, and then you'll see summary and entities, but you got to click on something here. Does that help? He changed this back, so mine probably looks a little more like yours. Okay, no problem. And again, for all of you, this is probably the first time you've played with this tool. So I understand the questions. I appreciate, let me know. If I do get going too fast, let me know, and I'll gladly, like I said, slow down and try to help you out here along the way. So don't want to leave anybody behind. So are we good? So again, that got us to here. Again, that got us into our entities where we could open up our entity dashboard. Here in our entity dashboard, when we first went there, we noticed that the first default dashboard looked like this. We can see that we've got a red indicator here. And these dashboards, like I said, can be used for a lot of things. Threat intel, events of interest, whatever. We wanted to go to events. And then here in our events, we see that we got an error. And down here, we went into our log search. And then we basically filtered for only updating table. Because a DBA, when they update a table, they're changing the table parameters. So that's how we figured this whole thing out. And again, the directions are here in your guide, so you can walk through them. Now, back to my slides. One of the things that the Root Cause Explorer does is it helps us enforce 6 troubleshooting concepts. And you will see these concepts in the test. So in fact, you'll have a nice little question about matching on this test. One little thing before I get into these concepts, earlier I had mentioned to you that there's this page that I put the link in the chat box that talks about the Root Cause Explorer in our documentation. And it goes through these concepts. And so when you're trying to answer that question, my advice is look at this page on these 6 concepts. Or you can access the slides, and in a minute, I'll show you what the slides are. So here in my slideshow, the 6 concepts are, we're looking for abnormal spikes, right? Abnormal spikes indicate an underlying problem. Concept 2, context and correlation. Across Root Cause Explorer, we can see the various events of interest. We can see the various microservice components and how they're laid out across a timeline. So you can see context and correlation between various microservices. Connections. We can see connections between the resources and the services. I'll show that to you in a little bit in something called the service map. So bear with me, I'll come back to that. Earlier spikes, right? Earlier spikes are closer to ultimately the root cause of the problem. Exploration of logs, right? Ultimately, we're going to find out the cause of this by looking at our logs. That's where we're going to go. And then finally, there's the Amazon golden signals. The golden signals are some specific signals that Amazon has declared that typically help us organize that root cause explorer. Those are our events of interest. Okay? These Amazon golden signals. So those are the 6 troubleshooting concepts. Let's go ahead and do this next poll activity and do the next lab, and then we'll take a break. But before I do that, let me stop the slides for a second. Again, I want to remind you where you can get copies of the slides and the recordings and all that stuff. So if you go to support.sumologic.com, to our support site, support.sumologic.com, and then you click on community. Here in our community, if you do a search for slides, SLIDES, you will find that it's going to give you this link. This link has a copy of all of our certification courses, including this new Observability Fundamentals course we're going through right now. Here's a link to that PDF document. Here's a link to a recording of that class. And here's a link to the slides as well. So again, I'm going to put this in the chat box so that you all have it and can reference it. Okay. So just wanted to mention that to you. Now, poll activity number 3. And this is something we haven't talked about yet, so bear with us. Application using microservices-based architecture use distributed platforms. They typically have different layers of infrastructure, okay? So we're talking about a bunch of microservices running on here. Which observability tool or technique do you think will help us understand transaction level tracking? So where we want to be able to see tracking across various microservices. And somebody has answered tracing, and they're absolutely correct. That is right, it's tracing. So tracing is going to allow us to see a transaction and to see where it breaks down. So let's talk a little bit about tracing. In fact, let me go ahead and stop here for a second. Let me go into the tool. This time, when we click new, I'm actually going to do this a little differently. I'm going to start with a bigger picture. So I'm going to actually go to new, and I want to go to service map. So I'm going to show you a service map first. And when you go into service map the first time, it may give you some help here about how to read service maps, but I'm going to close that out. Service maps, when we set up open telemetry data into Sumo Logic, we set up tracing into Sumo Logic. And you'll learn how to do that tomorrow, by the way, in tomorrow's class. We can see that we've got some activity going here with a payment service. We can see we've got our coffee bar app over here, and then we've got some other things that are showing up. These circles, the size of the circle indicates the amount of requests per second. So the more requests per second we get, the bigger the circle. If they're producing abnormal values, I will see this in red. It will show up in red, okay? Otherwise, they'll be normal. And they also have different shapes, like these cloud things are going out somewhere in the cloud. These other things are various microservices. Now, this shows me my relationship between my microservices. I can, if I want to, filter so I only see my coffee bar app. So let me filter it so I only see my coffee bar app here. And then if I wanted to, I could filter it even further with different service information. But here I have my coffee bar app. My coffee bar app consists of my cash bar on my front end, consists of my cash desk for processing payments, consists of my machine to go out and grind the beans as well as fill the water. Now, I can take any one of these if I want to, and I can click on this. And again, it brings up my side panel. So again, here I'm looking at my coffee service. This one right here, I'm looking at my water service, okay? And I can see various values and various metrics. And if I want to, I can open this up into traces or spans. I'll get into spans in a little bit, but we're going to open it up in traces. And what traces tell us is these show us all the traces where these are my transaction traces from my coffee bar app based on my water service. So let me back up for a second and let me explain and set some ground rules here to help you out a little bit, right? We're talking about a coffee bar place, right? We go into a Starbucks-like coffee place, Sumo Logic Coffee. And when a customer places the order goes to the barista initiates the coffee machine checks the bean levels. If we have enough beans, we grind the beans, checks the water levels. If we've got enough water, we add the water. The coffee is ready for the customer pays for the order, credit card or whatever, transaction is approved, and then the customer gets their order, okay? So each one of these is a microservice, and this is a transaction that occurs. Now, I would personally move the credit card information probably up a little higher because I don't want to make the cup of coffee if the customer can't pay for the coffee, you know? So I'd probably move this up a little higher in the process, but you get the idea. Sure, Amish, I'll go back to that poll in just a second. But the point is we want to be able to see that stuff. So let me go back here. Bear with me a second here, guys. Okay. Going back to your poll question here. So here's poll activity number 3. Apps using microservice-based architecture use distributed platforms. And they do, right? They typically have different layers of infrastructure, which observability tool lets us see the transaction level tracking. And that's going to be tracing. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using tracing here. Remember, one of those 3 pillars of our observability solution. So tracing is what we're going to use. And that's what we're talking about. Again, you can also think of another transaction type thing rather than coffee. You could think in terms of shipping a package, right? So if I ship a package, I can see all the places that package has been, where it is in the transaction process. So again, we can see tracing when we're doing some sort of transaction to see in a distributed environment where things are going and how they're going there. Maybe there's a problem in one of my environments, one of my areas. So that's what we're trying to do here. So any other questions before I get back to resuming here the conversation? All right. So We went to the service map first. We went to new service map. On my service map, I can pick on a service like water service. I can open it up in my traces, and these traces will show me all the traces that use my water service. And I can see that some of these traces have errors. Now, I can go into any one of these. And again, what I'm looking here is my trace view. So we've got spans and we got traces. What's the difference? A trace is an entire transaction. John orders coffee, coffee gets brewed, all that stuff. John gets handed his coffee. That's a trace. Within those traces, we have spans. John places his order. Batista receives the order. Batista puts cup underneath the coffee maker, checks for beans, grinds the beans, dispenses the water, hands John his coffee, John pays for coffee, whatever. These are all the different spans that happen. And anywhere I've got a problem, I have a red line. And ultimately, to troubleshoot this, I'm going to look for the lowest red line. So I'm going to look for the lowest one with the red line. And by the way, I can turn this off if I want to. So where it says error spans only, if I turn that off, it's going to ghost out some of this other stuff and only show me the ones with the red lines. Now, if you don't see error spans only, if you don't see this switch, and this is a test question, that's why I'm pointing it out. If you don't see this switch, it's because there are no errors. Sometimes things work perfectly. In fact, most of the time they better work perfectly or you're going to be out of business. So, but if you don't see this, it's because there's no errors. Now, in my case, I'm going to go in here to this cache bar. I'm going to click on this cache bar. And here I can open up my span information, my logs associated with my span. So this little span that we're on right here, this little span, I want to see the log messages associated with this span. So I can click on that. It's going to open this up in my log query. And you'll see I've got 4 log messages. And the latest one is at the top. The earliest one is at the bottom. So down here, it said, okay, we're trying to do a payment process. We have to get the product price. We queried the database for the product price. Oh, heck, things went wrong. Okay. So you can see that we've got a problem here, a connection problem. Maybe we momentarily lost our connection. Maybe there's a problem with the, going into the database. Maybe we didn't pay our cell phone bill, whatever. But this, now I can see what caused this particular issue and obviously work to resolve it. Maybe I need some redundancy in my connections. Maybe I need to ensure some reliable connections, that sort of thing. But you and I can go out here to my service map and we can click on an object out here like my coffee service. And again, I can open this up in my traces. And here in my traces, I can open up, again, something with some errors. And I can start to troubleshoot where we prepare the coffee. And I can open up my logs, my span ID for my logs. And I can see, oh, gee, we're out of no coffee beans or no water in this case. So you can see exactly what happened when these things failed. And being able to go from problem to resolution or problem to identification of problem quickly is the key here, right? Yep. Yep, Tom, I agree with you. Tom's statement is it blows me away that we can have this type of inter-process reliability or relatability. I can only imagine that it is enabled by the stuff we're going to learn about tomorrow, and it is. Tomorrow we'll show you how to set up traces. We'll show you it. And by the way, we use open telemetry. So that's our standard that we use, which is pretty much, open standard. A lot of companies use it. So, and we'll show you how to configure all that fun stuff tomorrow. Tomorrow, you're going to find we've got 3 labs, but they are 3 very long labs. So it'll take us typically the 2 hours to get those things done. Okay. So yeah, fun stuff. Now, what I propose here, folks, is we've talked about this and we've done, by the way, let me point it out. We just did lab 2. We did tracing in the Sumo Logic Coffee app. We went in here and saw the traces and saw the information and all that good stuff. What I propose we do here, folks, is let's take a 10-minute break. So let me set up my timer. But before I do that, let's see if there are any questions. Anybody have any questions at all? Okay. Let me also pin this. Let me pin this. Close this up. grab my 10-minute timer, and I'll see you back here when the timer gets down to 0. So have a great break. Thanks. All righty, we are back. So we have talked a bit about tracing. We talked about the service maps. We've got one more little exercise here to talk about, and that's spans. So, and logs and all that good stuff. So let me talk a little bit about spans. And again, we've talked about these traces. Let's talk about spans. You know, one of the things that we get feedback on is that sometimes people don't want to write long and involved queries. And so here, if I grab a span, I can filter for something. For example, maybe what I want to do is grab a specific service equals, and then I want to grab my coffee bar front end. By the way, this is something I'm going to demonstrate. You don't have to do anything. And then here, maybe what I want to do is I can, of course, see my data for the last, say, 60 minutes. And so without having to write any complicated queries, I can now see the spans that make this up. Great, wonderful, exciting. And I see this one has a nice little error, right? So maybe I want to investigate that. And I could click on this and open it up in my traces. But additionally in here, I see the various filters and various metadata tags that I can also use here in my Field Explorer. And then here under Visualize, I can say, you know what, duration, my percentage of my duration is equal to 95%. And maybe I want to group it up in 1 minute increments. So when I run this, now what happens is not only will I see my messages in here and my spans and my traces, but I can also use and get my aggregates tab, and it creates a visualization for me. And so my point is that this is our newest tool where we can make it very easy for you to create some sort of query and see those underlying log messages and see a visualization represented. So this is what I don't have to create a long and elaborate query. I can very easily just create the statements that I want and make it much easier for me to build the types of queries that I want. So I just wanted to mention that to you, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close up all these tabs that I've got open just to make things simple. And then what I want to do here is focus on our next conversation point, where we are going to see how we can use logs to troubleshoot. So just bear with me a second. Trying to see where I am here on the deck. Okay. Okay, good. Here we are. So poll activity number 4. All right. Poll activity number 4. Wait for it to load up. With the help of metrics, we get an indicator that something is wrong with the app. Now you want to figure out why, and that's the operative word, why it happened. Which tool would you use? Would you use logs, metrics, or tracing? And hopefully you know that the why is logs. Absolutely correct, Don. That's absolutely right. Logs will always explain to us why. So we want to use logs here, and we're going to talk about observability with logs, and that's going to bring us into our third exercise. So let's talk about when logs are the best bet for observability. And they're always the best bet as far as telling us why. So what we're going to do here in lab 3 is, again, you're a training analyst, you're an SRE, you got an alert on an incident, it's in US East 1, last 24 hours, there's a problem with our Lambda service. So again, we're going to go into our Sumo Logic training environment, and we're going to click New. We're going to go into our Explorer. Just like before, we're going to go into AWS Observability. We're going to go into Prod. We're going to go into US East 1. And this time, we're going to go into Lambda. Now, regarding Lambda and Lambda service, there's something wrong with our Lambda service. We want to be able to see what's going on with our Lambda service. So here I can see where my users are using my Lambda service from. I can see the services that are using Lambda. I can see various performance and various other things as soon as they get done rendering. They're still rendering. I can see my top functions by duration, and I can see my successes and failures. Now, When I look down here at my successes versus failures, and if I only show successes, you'll see that my get billing information never succeeded. It's always been failing. So I want to investigate this. I want to figure out what the heck is going on. So right now I'm looking at all of my function names. What I'm going to do is I'm going to backspace over that star. I'm going to start typing in get billing information. And I only want to see data for that function. So these filters allow us to filter our panels and information. So now I'm seeing that I've got 714 errors from my get billing information. And it looks like there's an issue with my database authentication. It's not working properly, but we're going to investigate this even further. So in my directions, right, we're doing lab 3 here. We went into our AWS Lambda. We can see all the various information that's shown here. We're focusing on, we notice that the get billing information fails. And so we're going to filter on our get billing information function. And we see we've got a bunch of errors related to get billing information last 24 hours. And so here in this visualization, I can click on this. I can open this up in my log search. And if I look at my underlying messages, I see that I've got 14 messages. And all 14 messages basically are saying the same thing. I have a problem with my database authentication error, invalid credentials. So somebody changed my credentials here. And if I go through here long enough, I should see perhaps who that user was. Hang on a second. I don't see who that user was here. Hang on a second. Let me check something out here real quick. I think I went down the wrong path. So let's see. I should see who the user is. Hang on, let me go down here and grab another one. I'm going to go to this most frequently used operation. Open that one in my search. And again, I'm going to go to my messages tab. Now, in this case, what I'm seeing is I've got an invoke events, I've got list functions event, update function code, update function configuration. What I really want to do is filter by update function code, because that's where they would have changed their credentials. So again, in my environment name, I can say I want to update by function code. That adds this where clause. Now I can look at my messages, and hopefully in my messages, I have a field for username. One of the challenges I have is that they occasionally change these queries on me. And so, when they change these queries on me and they take out things like the username, things get a little bit more fun to try to troubleshoot. Again, I know the issue is somebody changed my database credentials. And so again, I can go in there and troubleshoot this, fix it, get things back on track. So again, trying to go directly into my logs to see why things have occurred, understand that, and fix that. All right. Not a real smooth demo, but that's another story. Now, the next part of this and the last part of this, again, we did the lab activity, and basically we can see what's happened here. So again, we went in, looked at our Lambda for prod US East 1, drilled in the Lambda namespace. We filtered on get billing information, filtered it out, and then we should see that there's a Mark Smith in there, but somebody's been changing my queries, so you don't see that. So again, metrics told us we had lots of errors, but logs tell us why, and that's true. So again, logs always tell us why things happen, and logs is ultimately where we're going to wind up. Logs is always going to tell us what's going on. Since there was no transactions in here, tracing probably wasn't going to help us. And metrics did help us a little bit. So obviously, how can we prevent something like this in the future? When somebody changes their credentials, they need to let people know. And they need to test it in dev before they roll it to prod, right? Now, the last thing we want to talk about here is how we can use the searching logs with Sumo to be able to see and create queries. So you're going to find in our product, we've got a lot of good queries, a lot of good functions that you and I can take advantage of here in Sumo in our log query. So that takes us to lab number 4, working with logs. So you and I can take this code right here in lab 4. We can swipe over this code. We can copy this code. We can go into our Sumo logic environment. We can paste this code and we can run this code. Now I'm only looking here at 15 minutes. Maybe I want to look a little bit more, but in the last 15 minutes of my CloudTrail data, I'm looking at my AWS region and I see that on my AWS regions, I see that I have US West 1 has got the most counts for a 15-minute period. Again, here's my 15-minute period. So again, you can create queries like this. Now, there are some built-in functions in our system that you can take advantage of. For example, the log reduce operator. The log reduce operator groups common logs together based on their format. So let me give you an example here of log reduce. I'm going to go out and look at my snort log. So I'm going to go out here and select source category equals lab/snort. Okay. Now my snort is a firewall appliance, and it tells me when people are trying to come in, maybe some suspicious activity here. And if I look at this over a 60-minute period, you'll see that I've got a fair number of logs to go through. I've got about 6,000 logs. I don't want to go through 6,000 logs. With log reduce, I don't have to. I can click log reduce and it adds log reduce as a pipe here, new command, and it combines my like messages. So here's my raw messages that we saw before, but now it creates this signatures tab, and I can see out of my 6,338 messages, 3,248 are this message. Okay. And, 157 are this message, and so forth and so on. So that makes things easy. Now, what I can also do in here under my actions is it's got a relevant score. How important, relevant is it? If I look at this and I investigate this and I look, it says attempted information leak. When I look at this, there is an application that people installed that updated. They updated a company-wide app that modified the config.conf file. And that's what created this alert. So this really isn't a problem. So I can go in here if I want to, and I can mark it and demote it and give it its relevant score of 0, because that's not really important. I don't really care about that. And because it's a malicious, it's not a malicious thing. It's an incidental thing that happened as a function of upgrading. Conversely, when I go in here and I look and say, gee, I've got this, somebody's trying to do maybe elevated privileges, and I look at that and somebody's really trying to hack in our system. Again, I can promote that and give it a relative score of 10, which is the highest score we have. So log reduce combines your common log files together, making it easier for you to see and play with and all that good stuff. Additionally, there is also log compare. And so when I run log compare, by default, I click on log compare. What it's going to do is it's going to take my data right now, go back 60 minutes, and it's going to do a log reduce on that. Then it's going to go back, in this case, 24 hours, go back 60 minutes, do a log reduce on that. So it's basically comparing my logs from today against yesterday, and then it's going to compare the two. It's going to do a log compare. So here I can see my percentage of change. This might be a better indicator to see if I've got problems when I look day to day. Now, do I want to compare with today against yesterday? Or do I want to compare today against maybe a week ago? I don't know about you, but my Wednesdays are nothing like my Tuesdays, which is nothing like my Mondays. But my Wednesdays are typically like my previous Wednesdays. My Tuesdays are like my previous Tuesdays because how we schedule training and things like that. So the point is that I may be better for me to compare it against a week rather than a day. Now, one other thing you might notice in here, you might see the word new. New means it wasn't there before, but it is there now. I may also see the word gone, G-O-N-E. Gone means it was there previously, but it's not there now. So, but I can see here, again, the changes, the percentage of changes, and that might indicate to me new threats and new problems. So that's log reduce and log compare. Okay. And then also we have log explain operator. Log explain operator is a relatively new operator. And what it does is it compares some data against a known set of data. So I'm going to go ahead and select all this lovely code here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to grab myself a new log search, paste my code in, go ahead and run this. And what I'm doing here when I run this is, again, it's comparing my information against a known set of data. So here it's saying how many of my messages are within the AWS US region, US West 1 region, okay, for my known set and for my test set. And then how many of these share this information, and how many of these share this information, and so forth, so on. So it's taking and comparing a control set against a non-control set. If you're curious to know more about log explain, my advice to you is go out to our documentation and look up log explain. And you'll find that, again, we've got it pretty well documented. By the way, this only works with JSON logs. So you can go out here and play and poke around and basically see what's going on. Maybe I want to see, if there have been a lot of access denied, right? I want to see, again, where that stuff is coming from. So it's a new function we recently added to the product. Okay. And that, folks, quite frankly, is the information about the observability labs. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you that's new that we've recently added that I think you're going to find very, very helpful. So one other little thing I want to show you here, since I've got the time, let me close all these up. And again, under new, I want to go to explore. And under my explore, this time I want to look at my real user monitoring. When I click on my real user monitoring, what it's going to do is it's going to give me information, going to give you information about your the user's experience going to your web applications. So you and I can see approximately how long it's taking to load our page, metric-wise, how many requests we're getting. We can see what browsers they're using, what operating systems they're using, and what geographic locations they're seeing. I can also see when I, for example, go out here and do a DNS resolution, how long is that taking? And then the time to establish a TCP connection, and then the time to be, start loading my page and end loading my page and all that fun stuff. The point is that you and I can see all these things stacked on top of one another. And by the way, I noticed that there's a spike here, a spike there. And if I scroll down, I notice those spikes correspond to image loading. So I can see it's taking a while for my images to load. And again, that may be something that causes my users to turn away. So maybe I need to talk to my development team about how we can improve those pages to load to give a better, faster performance. So this is our real user monitoring, okay? Okay, good question. So Avanish asks, is this only for AWS or can this happen for other things? This can happen to any website, whether it's on AWS, Azure, it could be IIS, could be whatever you want it to be. The only secret to this is that there's a little script that you're going to have to run in your pages to add some data to your pages so that it goes into here. And then, of course, we'll have to basically bring that information in. But this is available through any web server. Okay. And so also, by the way, besides my real user monitoring overview, I can see my top whatever, top browsers, top geographic information. By the way, the interesting thing about the geographic information is I can see, again, performance information. So maybe I'm noticing in different parts of the world it's taking longer to do something. Then maybe I need to put a web server out in that area. So you can see that. Also, there's a performance analytics that you can see to see how things are behaving here. So this is our real user monitoring. We haven't incorporated the class yet, but we will. And so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. It will not be on the test. Nothing on this will be on the test, the real user monitoring, but just wanted to let you know it's something that we've also been adding. So we've been very busy enhancing our product. Now, again, our goal here is to provide you observability and the tools to be able to observe across your environment. And I hope in today's lecture, you guys have seen that. You guys have seen the things that we can do, okay? So let me wrap this up and let's get you guys to get to your exam a little early and get you guys out of here perhaps a little early. So observability, right? We can observe the app from the outside and understand what's happening inside of it, right? We can see across the various microservices. In case you need to track a transaction from end to end, again, you can see it through tracing. Metrics provide visibility and insight to understand the cause of a spike. Logs will always tell us why, what the problem is. And while logs and metrics are different in nature, they do complement each other. And along with tracing, provide a solid foundation for our observability solution. So tomorrow, as I said, we are going to do observability admin in case you guys have signed up. And in there, we're going to do basically three things. We're going to set up AWS observability solution using the CloudFormation template. We're also going to configure and deploy our custom Kubernetes cluster. And then we're going to set that cluster up for telemetry using OpenTelemetry. So I'm sorry, set tracing points for OpenTelemetry. Sorry about that. So the point is, those are the three things we're going to do tomorrow so that you can get this information and see this information. Again, we talked about the Uber Eats, although I got to change the slide because they got the wrong address in there. In fact, I'm going to delete this slide. I'm also going to delete that slide. That's no longer there. And basically, that's it. That is the end of the conversation. So I'm going to take you guys in and get you guys into your exams. But are there any questions about the material or anything you want to talk about? All right. Then let's go ahead. What I want you to do is I want you to log out. Just hold on a second so we get a question here. Okay. Okay. Avanish mentioned about the script that you're going to plug into your web pages. Is that in GitHub? I'm not sure if it's in GitHub, but I know it's in our documentation. I do believe that it is in GitHub, but I'm about 40% sure it's in GitHub. I know it's in our documentation. So if you, in fact, if you want to go in there, you can find it. Okay. All right. Any other questions, folks? So what I want you to do is I want you to log out of our training environment because you're logged in as training analyst, whatever. I want you to log out. I want you to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment so you get credit for passing this test. So I want you to log into your company's environment with your credentials. So when you log in, you see your information down here. And then because we fixed this problem yesterday, those of you with me yesterday, you should be able to go to Home, Certification, and you should be able to click on Get Certified, and it should take you into our LMS, our learning management system. And as I mentioned yesterday, these are where we keep the current password so you can see what's going on. You will find that when we create courses, we also create self-paced courses. So here, if you click on this observability file, you'll see here's the self-paced versions of the fundamentals and the administration class. But I'm going to go back one here. Here's where our Get Certification exams are, Get Certified. And here, if I look for my Observability Fundamentals, please make sure you grab the Observability Fundamentals, not the Observability Admin exam. So you're going to go into Observability Fundamentals. Like me, you can register if you want. Boom, you're registered, done. And at this point in time, if you're watching and following along with me, don't follow along, just watch. Again, up here is your profile. It keeps track of all the exams that you've taken. And I point this out for a reason. So when you pass an exam, you'll be able to see a certificate. You can add it to your LinkedIn profile. all of those good things. Also, additionally, you can take your certificate, and again, you can copy it and send it to training-promotions@sumologic.com and get your free Uber Eats voucher for $15. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I want to point something out to you that's kind of important. When you go into your exam, before you start, it's going to tell you there are 20 questions, only 20 questions here, folks. This is a new exam. It's a new product. We're kind of checking things out. So we're making it easier for you to pass. 20 questions, you got 60 minutes to complete. The pass rate is lower. It's not 75, it's 70. So when I click next, it's going to show me, and I'll get to that question in just a second in the chat box. So here I am, tells me a little summary of what's going on. When you're ready to start, here you go. So it says match the observability stage with the corresponding data analytics, right? Diagnosing, monitoring, and troubleshooting. So monitoring used all three. Monitoring used all three. Diagnosing used 2. And troubleshooting used 1. And I'm going to go to the next question. What's the function of this icon, right? Basically, it toggles whether, no, I'm sorry, hang on a second. Toggles all the filters either on or off. That's what it does. Now, I'm going to submit my answers. I've only answered 2 questions, so obviously I'm going to fail. But when I submit my answers here, and I'll submit my answers, sure enough, it says I failed. But here, I can see what questions I got right, what questions I got wrong. But most importantly, I need to click the submit results button. This submit results button is going to add it to your profile. If you don't click this, the exam did not happen. So please make sure you click this when you pass it, so it adds it to your profile. That's my only ask. Okay. All right. Can I share the email? Yeah, training. It's actually training dash promotion. So hang on a second. Let me do that. There's the email. So there you go. Yep. Training dash promotions at sumologic.com. So there you have it. Any questions, folks? Any questions at all? I will be here in case you get stumped on a question. You want some help, feel free to ask. I'll gladly try to help you any way I can. Otherwise, I'm going to stop my recording and I'm going to stop my sharing. Again, okay. Should the email have a subject, you can put in there Uber Eats voucher or something like that. Uber Eats probably is a good one. So this is going to go to a specific person. That's why we want you to use training promotions. Training at sumologic.com goes to everybody on the training team, including myself. So training promotion will go to that person that takes care of it, just so you know. All right, let me do this. So again, turn my camera back on. Again, I want to thank you all for attending. I hope you guys learned a lot of good information here today. And if there's anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask. Again, I will put my email address and my contact information in. So if there's anything I can do to help you, please don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I want you guys to have a wonderful day. Go take the exam, pass it, get yourself another voucher. Otherwise, like I said, thanks a lot for spending your day with us. Have a great time. Thank you.